So there was a bit of a reveal in the UK with social media being banned for anybody under 16 as of spring 2027. What does this mean for young people in Britain? And what does it also mean for content creators going forward? Let's talk about it. 15th of June 2026, UK Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer announced that as of spring 2027, young people under the age of 16 will be banned from social media. This includes platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, but doesn't include WhatsApp. Maybe it's because they have encrypted messaging. I'm not entirely sure, but I think that could be the case. So this news has divided people, as any revelation comes now. There's a strict split right down the middle with the pros and the cons. So I'm going to do the pros and the cons from my perspective, and then give my own opinion on what I think of this ban. Now, like I do in my Ginger Engine channel, these are all my personal opinions. Your thoughts will probably be different than mine. Let me know in the comments what you think. But like my Ginger Engine channel, please keep it respectful and just try and enjoy the video. So we'll start with the cons. And I think the biggest con that people are taking away from it is it just seems like a cop-out. Social media has its good points as well as its bad points, but negatives attract publicity. Hell, you look at a YouTube comment section, negative talking points actually drive a video's views up, which means creators make more money as a result of it. So highlighting all the negative points of social media has probably caused this reaction to just outright ban it. Many parents and young people are saying that there is bad points to social media, but it needs more restrictions and more accountability held to the actual social media platforms themselves, or causing things like cyberbullying. But rather than take those companies to task, they're just going, okay, blanket ban. And that doesn't work. I mean, look what happened with TikTok in 2025, I believe. It was down for maybe, 24, 48 hours. And the entire world essentially went into meltdown in terms of social media, only for it to come back up. So it didn't actually have any big consequence. Which leads me to my next point. Young people always find a way. You try and deprive the most technologically savvy generation of technology, that goes down really well, doesn't it? And kids are a lot smarter than the people that are trying to put these bans into place. They will find ways around it. You look at some of the YouTube channels where they'll just type in their date of birth as a date that's after 18 years old. Then all of a sudden, boom, they have a YouTube account. They have a Facebook account. They have an Instagram account. So it's not going to actually stop people. Heck, even with the ban on adult content in the UK, most people just went, haha, got a VPN, and then logged in and registered for a country that wasn't the UK. There are multitudes of ways around a ban, just like there is with ways to try and get the ban into place. So it might not actually have any impact at all. And the final point in the cons, everybody is now conspiracy theorizing. Digital ID has been something that's been floating around in the UK for a very long time, and it is starting to get implemented in certain sections. I have to do digital ID for my media company, otherwise I can't run the company anymore. And a lot of people are very against digital ID, because there's more of your personal information out on the internet where people can take advantage of it or sell it to the highest bidder. It's not something very nice. A lot of people don't agree with it, and they think that this is just another way of trying to implement digital ID in the country and specifically targeted to the youngest generation, which is a bit silly because not a lot of young people have ID. You can get Young Scot cards, you can get certain ID cards, I think, under 16. After that, you're pretty screwed. So I've talked about the cons and I'm going to go into the pros. And I'm purely looking at this as a parent myself and a dad of twin boys who will be affected by this ban. One positive is that it will give some parents peace of mind. As parents, we all want to protect our kids. Any issues and any harm in the world, but we know, like it or not, we can't protect them from everything. There will be issues that happen. There will be confrontations. There will be bullying. There will be problems. Now, I'm going to speak a bit like an old man here, but it really is a back in my day situation, because back in my day, the internet and social media was only just starting to rise to prominence when I was in high school. So there wasn't as much cyberbullying. I had enough real life bullying to drive my mental health and physical health right down the swanny. I hated it. I hated high school. I was so glad when I got out of there. So having another way for my kids to potentially go through bad experiences taken away from them, I am all for that. You've seen so many rises of things that, as a parent, really fills you with fear. And we can be exploited with that because we just think of our kids. We want what's best for them. We want their safety. So I was a little bit happy when I heard the ban at first, and then started looking into it a bit more and thought, there's two sides to this. But it brings me to another positive point. it will start making companies take notice. Because the UK isn't the first country to do this ban. Australia's doing it as well. They're having mixed results, but if more countries start following suit, maybe it will start forcing bigger companies to get in line and start re-optimizing their content and sorting it, or at least putting some better age restrictions on it. And one final positive, at least from my case as a parent, it might lead to a bit more stabilization of moods in kids. Social media is very addictive. Going onto it and seeing a reel or typing a post, it gives you a dopamine hit. It's very much like online gaming or gaming in general. You got a dopamine hit from playing it and the little rushes that you get. But when you come off of those, the come downs can be quite severe, and especially in young kids. I try and limit my kids to certain times they can have on like their tablets or their Xbox, for example, because when they're off of that, all they talk about is their electronics. And if they don't get their own way, their moods are a lot worse and harder to handle than if they never had it in the first place. I actually put them on a blanket ban for about a year because their mood was so bad. But once it was able to stabilize and they grew up and had a bit more maturity about them, they got their stuff back. And I do notice a vast improvement in their mood, in their emotional regulation, and their stability. There's so much technology out there that kids are exposed to, and a lot of adult technology. It means that kids get taken away from being kids at times. So I gave you the pros and I gave you the cons, but which one do I personally prefer? In all honesty, I'm kind of split. I do see the benefits that will help kids, make them feel a bit safer, and also help families manage in what are becoming more trying times, where more pressure is being put on young people to essentially grow up too quickly. But I'm also not a complete idiot. I do know that it's a cop-out. I do know that they should be taking like the bigger companies to task rather than just doing a sweeping ban, which seems like the simple solution, when really it's just going to cause outrage and uproar, which is not what you want. I think there needs to be a middle ground. There needs to be more regulations on the social media sites themselves so that it doesn't impact children and also protect them. But because the internet and social media is such a minefield and it's too hard to task, they just don't want to do it. But the final point is what it means for content creators, because that's an issue that a lot of people aren't really kind of recognizing here. With them noticing that YouTube is going to be part of this ban, it is going to affect a lot of companies in terms of content. Now, big companies like, for example, WWE, who put shows like Saturday Night's Main Event or the AAA promotions on YouTube, that does wipe out a section of their market because it's meant to be for family entertainment. And if you're wiping out the family part of it, they're not going to watch, and that revenue and profit is going to go down. But big companies like WWE will have workarounds for this. They have a whole year to prepare to make sure that it doesn't affect their bottom line. It's smaller content creators, kind of like myself, that should be worried. My Ginger Engine channel is a prime example. Some of the metrics for my channels, my prime audience can be within the 13 to 17 mark. So you're essentially taking a good chunk of my audience that watches my Thomas and Friends content on the Ginger Engine away from me, which affects ad revenue, which affects my money, which will affect my business. So that's the part that I'm really concerned about. And I also think about people that make content on YouTube Kids, specifically for kids. If they can't access YouTube Kids anymore, what's going to happen to YouTube Kids? They'll probably just get around it with a VPN, like I said previously. But it is something that many content creators are going to have to consider going forward so that they don't get royally shafted with this and can still earn a living doing what they do best, which is create content. This is obviously early days. The ban isn't going to happen until spring 2027. And those are just my thoughts on it. Things could very well change by the time people see this video. But let me know in the comments what you think. Thank you for watching, and take care.